Hi, this is Richard Chamberlain. Welcome back to the Protecting Your Family's Future podcast. This is episode number 109. And today we're going to be talking about choosing your contingent beneficiaries. So, when you're making an estate plan, you are designating who will receive your assets when you pass away. And those people are called your beneficiaries. When you make that estate plan, you want to plan for the possibility that those people might not survive you. So let's say, for example, you have children, you might have your children as your beneficiaries. So when I pass away, my assets would be divided among my children in equal shares or however you want to do it. But you should also have a plan for, well, what if one of those children isn't living when you pass away? What happens to their share? Sometimes people will say, well, if a child of mine is not living when I pass away, then their share should go to their children if they have children. So to the grandchildren from that child. So that let's say you have four children, you would still have four shares created from your estate, and the share of that deceased child would be divided among their children. If, on the other hand, that deceased child did not have children, then you might have the share just divided among your living children. So three shares instead of four in that circumstance. Now, that would be what we would call a bloodline distribution or a distribution to your descendants per stirpes. That's a Latin term. It just means to your family members according to those children and deceased children. So that's a per stirpes distribution. But if you don't have any living descendants and you want your assets to go to your descendants, but you don't have any because there was some kind of disaster, or maybe you just have a small family and those people just don't survive you, then we run into what we call your remote contingent distribution. And that might be other family members, it could be brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, it could be particular people. A lot of people will choose charities as their remote contingent beneficiaries. So if we don't have any living descendants, then leave it to these three charities. Now, how you do your particular plan, of course, is entirely personal to you. What makes sense to you may not make sense to someone else, but you need to have that conversation with yourself, or if you're married, that with your spouse about this is who we want our assets to go to, what we would call your natural beneficiaries. But if those people aren't living, then you need to have a plan for what happens then. Because if you don't, then it's as if you didn't have an estate plan at all. And the state law will determine who receives those assets in those circumstances. So make sure that when you're thinking about your estate plan, you're thinking not only about, well, what happens when we pass away? Of course, the people that we want to receive our property will be living, because maybe they won't be. And so you need to have a plan for what happens in that circumstance. And we call those your contingent beneficiaries and your remote contingent beneficiaries. So if you have any questions about that, or if you have questions about setting up your own estate plan, you can reach out to us. If you're in Ohio or in Michigan, we can help you put together your estate plan, and our contact information is in the show notes. I hope that's helpful for you today, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks.